Hello everyone, I am Tasta. I hope all of you have had a wonderful Halloween. Today we are going to be going over the new legendary troop of Carmina. So of course we still have this event going on of Lost Souls or Carmina, and now that we have plenty of time to go and end up using her, I figured we show a couple teams as far as what she could end up doing. As far as obtaining her, she's still available from the Lost Souls of Carmina event, so for the next 5 days or so, you're still going to be able to go pick yourself up a Carmina. If you happen to not pick her up or choose not to, you can end up getting her in the future. She should be available about 4 to 6 weeks after this event ends in the Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests. The best way to do it if you're trying to synergize it with a Mythic would be to do it on the January Mythic, as it should be the first Mythic available, where it will guarantee definitely be in the drop table by then. Aside from that, as far as getting her kitty, which gives her a little bit extra stats if you happen to not pick it up or not get it maxed during this event, you'll also be able to get this into the future. The way that you'll be able to get it is immediately in the pet drop table. So as soon as this event ends in 5 days, it'll immediately be in the drop table. Of course, with how pets work, the chance that you're specifically going to get this pet to appear, not very likely to happen day one. It could take a week, couple weeks before your guild cycles back around to it. However, it will simply be available. You don't need to go and worry about waiting for like next Halloween or something similar. You'll just be able to find it naturally, as it is a stat boosting pet, and all stat boosting pets are just in the drop table. And this one ends up giving extra stats to Carmina, up to +5 to all stats if you have it all the way max. As far as Carmina herself, it's a pretty interesting mechanic. She ends up creating a mix of all 3 skulls that currently exist: Normal Skulls, Doom Skulls, and Uber Doom Skulls. Even if the enemy is death marked, it ends up creating 1 more of each. This might also be your first opportunity, if you're a somewhat newer player, to be able to go get the Uber Doom Skull achievement, as there aren't too many low rarity things that can end up creating Uber Doom Skulls, and they don't occur naturally normally most of the time, as far as falling from the sky, because normally it's just whatever the current seasonal event is, which currently is giant gems. But it'd be a good way to get that. It's also an okay skull spammer. I personally feel like it has a bit of inconsistency, not just with its skull spam, but also with its final perk here, where it ends up death marking an enemy when an enemy dies. This is actually pretty good on her specifically, just because she ends up creating 1 more of each of the skulls when there is a death mark onto the opposing team, and it's just a natural way to end up getting onto the opposing team without needing an additional troop. So this frees up an entire slot that you can use for something else, like another mana accumulator, another skull spammer, another pretty much anything you want to do. So overall, that's not too bad. The biggest issue with this is a big issue that just all Deathmark really has. It's not just exclusive to her issue. And that is the first turn that you end up getting a Deathmark onto an enemy, there is a guaranteed chance they will not die to the 10%. It's impossible the first turn they get Deathmarked that they will die. However, this also still applies to this day to when something gets refreshed on Deathmark. So if something is already Deathmarked and they get Deathmarked again, that turn that they get re-Deathmarked, they will not be able to die to the Deathmark. This is decently problematic due to how she applies death marks. So let's say, for example, you kill the first slot, and it then death marks the 3rd slot. You then go, and of course, generally, any team you're using with her is probably pretty skull-based, so the next one that will die is the 2nd slot. Well, the 3rd slot is already death marked, so you basically have a 50-50 chance at that point that something that is already death marked will get re-death marked, making it so that following turn it cannot die to that death mark. So a little bit clunky in that regard, but overall, it's an okay skull spammer. Definitely has some utility here and there. Definitely not something you would use a lot, but something to consider when composing a skull spam team. With that being said, we're going to go show 3 of them that we've kind of messed around with over the last week. Also, good old tribute. So let's just go to, I guess, Golvania, and just mess with a few teams, all of which will be in the description below if you want to go and copy-paste any of them. Let's actually start from Wild Carmina. This one's actually probably my favorite one out of all of them, so might as well start here. So this uses a very control troop of Keeper of Souls to try to connect all the skulls that we're going to be doing with her. We end up using Box Strider as well, kind of as our main mana accumulator, just to get things rolling. So hopefully we get a green surge here, which should set things in motion. Perfect, exactly what we want to see. So let's go and see if we have Keeper of Souls. So we do. However, I do kind of want to board clear first, especially since it blocks less mana. So we're doing this with a Wild King kind of setup. So Wild King has no mana conflict. He's a green, yellow, blue with a red, purple. So they have no mana conflict together. So when you're mana accumulating off another troop, like Box Strider here, you can simply just get all your mana, and it's pretty convenient. So right here, we're just going to go for our skull, see what we can end up getting here. Probably go for a little bit of attack boost just to kind of get things rolling a little bit more. We have a pretty good board, so I'm just going to go for a Carmina here. We already have our death mark for boost ratio, and as you can see, they already die. So, yeah, that's pretty much what she does. She just assists skull spam teams to be even more skull spammier. So next, let's go with a Empower build. So this uses a Angry Mob as our main mana accumulator, so we do want to prioritize taking those browns, even though it's all the way in 3rd slot. We also have a way to pressure immediately with a green to Skull Convert, as well as keep Lord of Slaughter alive. So Lord of Slaughter, despite having a pretty good setup to be 1st slot, is generally ran as a 2nd slot, as it tends to die a little bit too easily. However, this troop basically just keeps it alive a little bit better. We're going to be going for Angry Mob to try to keep the HP up a little bit as we can. And do we want to go for green here? Yeah, we do. Go for a little bit green. I'm trying to get brown, which is a big issue on this current board, it looks like. However, if we just get Lord of Slaughter up, we can simply just do it off of that, which seems like is going to be our game plan at this point due to how the board's going for us. So we'll go take our extra turn that for whatever reason the AI did not go for. And see if we have alignment. Honestly, even if we don't, we kind of need the board clear just to get things rolling here. So we are going to end up going for it. And we do miss the extra turn. However, this does finally get us access to some brown, which we're 1 mana short on. Unfortunately, it happens sometimes, though. We really need that last little bit of brown. And as Lord of Slaughter normally does, he has that little bit of issue staying alive there. So luckily, we have a solution for that. It's called Angry Mob. It resummons infinitely. So we'll be able to do this all the way down to her, and should be able to get the alignment we need to do set up. So we're just doing that to get the skulls onto the board. You do generally want to make sure you set some skulls onto the board. Even with her full boost ratio, there's a lot of times where she's just not going to be able to go and end up getting a alignment. That's one thing that's slightly unfortunate with her, is her lack of consistency in a lot of situations. We were kind of just hoping that the RNG of the random skull she ends up creating will be good enough to end up landing. And that will happen in most situations, is you're kind of just hoping that it will land. Like in a board like this, it's pretty unlikely we'll not end up getting it, and it does end up missing there. We do have our green alignment, so we are going to go for that, get a little bit of HP buff there to make sure it doesn't end up dying. And with the Uber Doom skulls, we can do a lot of damage pressure. Simply take one more skull, and we're good to go. And that is that. And next, we have a little bit of a cheaper team to end up using with her. This one ends up going with about as cheap options as we can go. However, I did go with a Writhing Staff. There's unfortunately not too many cheap options as far as skull spam weapons. They're generally things that you have to have gotten in the past. Like Writhing Staff, for example, is from Sea of Sorrows event. We did have one pretty recently, like I believe about a month or two ago. However, it is still event locked, which is a little bit unfortunate. That's a big issue that Hero has in general when it comes to skull spammers. But anyways, as far as this team is concerned, it's a pretty standard Thrall Leprechaun as far as our base. We have Entangle here, which will end up allowing us to not really need to deal with the Skull Backlash, which is really good, as there will be times where she will end up missing her ability, and you kind of need a way to get around that. So we're going to go for this first, just to kind of give a setup. Unfortunately, a bit of a miss. However, we will hopefully go for her, and she will not miss. Or she will, who knows, but we set up the board for her. The only thing we don't have for her is the Death Mark, but we got our extra turn. Oh, no, I took it the wrong way! No, misclicks. It happens sometimes. But we'll go for our board clear, get her again. If we can get a better... Let's see, we'll go for this first. Get our Entangle there. And this should be all we need to get a nice big poke down. And let's not misclick this time. Go for our Thrall. Go for one more poke over there, and we should be good to go. And it should kill it out, so I'd be very surprised if that ends up missing. But yeah, Carmina, it's basically a troop you pet into a team to kind of connect some of the skull spams. It's at least a lower rarity version if you're looking to get Uber Doom skulls, as most other versions are all mythics. So having as a legendary is definitely a lot more accessible, especially with how easy it is to get from this event as well as into the future. So let's go run back this one team one more time. Unfortunately, with a decently bad starting board for what we're looking for. However, we'll still work with this. We can make this work. Let's see, we'll take the green over there. This will be all the mana we need now. So we'll get that down, and we basically just hit the win buttons now. So we'll go take that. We'll go take our other skull. We got a Keeper of Souls for the skulls. So we'll go for that. Trying to get that last little bit of green, which we end up getting from the Explode there. Of course, the Doom Skulls and Uber Doom Skulls and all that we end up creating, they can be used for some amount of mana accumulation. Well, it's not a huge amount of mana accumulation. It does add up over time. And right here, I believe we just have our win condition. We'll just go take out purple. If that's not enough, we'll go take this, or otherwise a skull on the board, and we're good to go. But anyways, guys, that is Carmina. Overall, personally, not a troop I will be like... Oh, well, you know what? Let's go to Mimic too. But personally, it's not a troop I'll likely be using too much into the future. It's a fun gimmick, but it's under the category of fun gimmick, but likely not to be realistic to use in most situations going forward. It's definitely usable. Like almost every skull spam team, you can kind of just plop her down and be, okay, there we go, good to go. You may notice I haven't done any 50% mana start for like Undead or something in these teams I showed. The main reason for this is she isn't really that good with other Undeads. Surprisingly, Undeads, well, with a few exceptions, like Keeper of Souls, do tend to actually lack better skull spammers a lot of times, and the better undead teams that tend to get used with 50% mana start are very true damage based. The 50% mana start itself is a true damager. The thing that tends to be used with it most, which is the gosh, why did I forget what the mythic is called? The Grey King. Grey King is one of the more common things that end up getting used in a pure undead team, and that doesn't really synergize that well with it. So a lot of times you're probably not going down the undead route with her. You might use a Keeper of Souls, you might use some kind of other undead skull spammer, but that's about as far as you can go due to the fact that it's limited more so just by the 50% mana starter, which is more geared towards running with a true damage team more so than a skull spam. Whereas, you know, things like Elementals, for example, have the benefit of having Mirage Queen, so it's a very skull spam, same as Divines. They have very skull spam-oriented 50% mana starters, so they end up gaining a benefit off of that. And there we go, 6 Orpheuses. But anyways, yeah, she's basically just a utility skull spam troop. You put her into a team, she can kind of make it function. You just synergize it with other skull spammers, put a mana accumulator in there, you're pretty much good to go. Fun little gimmick. Though beyond that, I don't really foresee it being used in Guild War. I don't really foresee it being used much in Explore 12, even though you could, with other various skull spammers. Like, I think that Wild King team we did early on, though there are a lot of them that can win pretty quickly, but it can pretty consistently do under 30 seconds for the most part, especially the first one we got there was a little bit quicker. Second one's a little bit slower, but it's mostly because we're not running a double mana accumulation. You can try doing that, but the problem with that is, of course, Carmina might be the one that gets dropped in those situations, because she basically is being used half as a mana accumulator due to all the Doom Skull she has, whereas in other situations you might run like in that case, like a Box Strider Leprechaun, if we were to adjust that team to not have Carmina, for example, which would end up giving us a higher amount of mana accumulation, but would give us a slower amount of skull spam, but that higher amount of more consistent mana accumulation will often outweigh having slightly more skull spam. There are a lot of teams that can get away with having one skull spammer, and Carmina is definitely not a troop that you'd want to use as your only skull spammer. Any team that ends up composing with her is likely using 2 skull spammers, one to kind of control the board a little bit more, and then Carmina to basically do the finishing blow when the board is set up with enough skulls to end up doing her ability with a bit more consistency. So overall, definitely advise getting it, and if you happen to not, it'll be available in several weeks after this event, so you'll still be able to get it into the future. The only one we don't really know about is Witch's Armor on if it's going to be coming back or not. It's simply cosmetic, so you technically don't need to worry about it too much, but if you like it for completion's sake, of course. We don't actually know for sure exactly how this will be coming back into the future, likely money locked, knowing how things go sometimes. However, these two will fully be available, Carmina in 4 to 6 weeks after the event, and Carmina's Kitty immediately in drop table after the event, simply from pets, so of course the pet drop table is very annoying to try to target down anything. Anyways, guys, hope you all enjoyed Halloween. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Best of luck with the rest of the event, as we only have 5 days left, so definitely make sure to get your completion in, especially if you're going for that Orb of Power for the achievement, though I'm pretty sure every single one of these events will have one, and we know for sure, obviously, we'll be getting one for December, for the winter event. However, we might have one even earlier than that, as the 8-year anniversary of Gems of War is only about 2 weeks away. So who knows, maybe we'll do an event for that? We don't really know. We'll find out soon. Anyways, guys, have a wonderful week. Catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.